I've just developed this recipe and I'm going to share it with you today in this video. Today I'm going to be making some oatmeal cookies. Now, I was wanting an oatmeal cookie recipe, a really good oatmeal cookie recipe. I wanted a recipe for me because I want oatmeal cookies at Christmas time. I don't want to just go and take someone else's recipe and use it. So I decided to sit down, get busy baking, and make my own. It took a couple of different tries for me to get exactly what I was looking for. However, when I added some acid in the form of some sour cream, and when I changed the process to allow the oats to soak prior to making the dough, well, suddenly I was into a whole different character of cookie. And the flavors that I didn't get in the first cookie suddenly started popping when I put in the right amount of spice and added the acid, which was, like I said, that sour cream. When I did that, suddenly these cookies popped. The character of my oats changed when I started soaking them. A few little things like that. And I'm going to show you these little tricks that I put together in a very simple cookie recipe that can be done in one bowl. Okay, we're going to do this in a single bowl using a spatula, no power tools of any kind, nothing special, basic hand equipment. And we're going to make a fantastic oatmeal raisin spice cookie that, well, you're going to find it fantastic tasting. This recipe I did not do 2 videos for. I'm just doing 1 video. Normally I do a recipe video, which is just the recipe, and then a tutorial video on that recipe. And so you get deep knowledge, deep detail on that. Well, this one's going to be so short, we don't have to do that. Now I have the entire ingredients list here. I'm going to give that to you, and you're going to have to just make some hand notes the way I normally do. Now, later on, this recipe will be on my website. I don't have it written out yet in the way I like to lay it out for my website. I do really good quality recipes there with pictures and you know, numbered steps and bullet pointed ingredients and stuff like that. So it's my recipes are very easy to follow and very good quality. And that's the reason I like to sell them on my website that way. So take a look at that, and that'll be down in the description box. But for now, let's get on with making this. I got great ingredients out here. I'm going to show you all the goodies I have. And really quickly, we're going to make a batch of cookies and get on with this. It's easy to do. Let me show you the ingredients. Come on. The ingredients that I have, wonderful items here. I've got some raisins, of course, some flour, and oats. Now these are the oats that you buy for breakfast, and so they're dry. These are not the instant oats, okay? So just get regular oats. That's what this recipe was built on. We're going to be using butter, salt, baking powder, sugar, sour cream, milk. This is some vanilla, and for our spices, I have in this order back here, that is cinnamon, nutmeg, allspice, ginger, and cloves. Oh, I'm sorry, this is the allspice, and that's the cloves. Yeah, that's right, allspice, cloves. Wasn't looking at the color close enough. Something I wanted to mention, I was getting ready to measure this out, and I noticed how much larger this cup looked than this. And I measured some ingredients from each, and I realized, even though this says it's a 1 cup measure, and this says it's a 1 cup measure, there are substantially different sizes here, okay? And so here's the thing, not all measuring cups are identical. And that's the reason sometimes you'll see me measure flour out and it won't match what it says online about how many grams is a cup of flour, because I'll say different cups matter, different flours matters, and it's true, it really does. So this one measuring much more flour than this one will give me, of course, a much different recipe. That's the reason I'm converting all of my recipes to grams, because I don't know which measuring cup anybody has, and with these large jumps from one to the other. I would just prefer to be more accurate doing this. So as I'm developing my recipes, I'm laying them out in both what I'm used to using and then converting it to what I'm using now. Sometimes when you get spice that is like a whole item like this is a nutmeg right here. That's a small one, but it's a nutmeg. All right, how do you do this? What do you do with this thing to get it ground nutmeg? Use a grater, one of these box graters. You know those rough sides? That's what they're for. Just to do stuff like this. You can do it with cinnamon, nutmeg, any kind of a hard spice. Right now, I need to get started on this recipe, and it begins with the oats and the milk. Now, I have my butter already softened. It's at room temperature. It's best to have all of your ingredients at room temperature, including that sour cream, so just go ahead and let it set out for a little bit. And part of that setting can be what we're doing here. What I want to do is I want to take this milk and I want to pour it over the oats, and we're just going to soak those oats, okay? So here's the thing. When I was developing this recipe, there were certain things that I noticed. When I made a batch of this recipe without first soaking the oats, they had that typical dry, flaky kind of mouthfeel that you get in a lot of oatmeal products. I don't like that mouthfeel. In fact, I'll go so far as to say I absolutely hate that mouthfeel. So what I want to do is to get more of a nut-like quality from this, a nutty quality in its texture. The texture, you know, like you would get with almonds or pecans or something like that, something that's real firm. So what I decided to do was to pre-soak this and see what I got that way. And it worked. It worked like an absolute charm. So I pre-soak these for 10 minutes. All right, so let's get this. It's simple enough. You're going to need a timer for this so you can time the cook and all of that stuff. And also time this. So this starts with 10-minute soak. I can simply set this aside. This is going to be the bowl I mix everything in also. In the meantime, I want to combine my dry ingredients. So that means getting these items all worked together. And I'm going to use another small bowl for that. So here, flour into a small bowl. Now normally, if I am making a recipe, I don't measure everything out like this when I'm baking unless it's necessary for the completion of the dish. Normally I just measure it all into the flour and do what I'm about to do, which is just stir all of this stuff together. Okay, so our spices, our leavening, the salt, all of that together in that flour. It's just as simple as this. Right now we're 6 minutes down on the soak for the oats. I am going to go ahead and stir that just a little bit. Okay, so I'll make sure that I get as many of the oats soaking as absolutely possible. And look at that. Most of the milk has already been absorbed by the oats. Okay, and that's sort of what I'm looking for. I'm looking for those to take in that part of the ingredient structure. Don't worry, it's going to all become a part of great cookies later. You'll see how this works. It's really cool. The next thing I want to mention, 2 things you're going to need. These cookies, though they're tasty, they got a tendency to stick to the pan. So use a baker's spray. I'm going to use one that's got the flour in it. You can use any kind of baker's spray you want. Just make sure your pans have some way of releasing the cookies. Rub them with butter, rub them with some lard. You can put on some all vegetable shortening if you like. Anything that'll keep that from sticking, some sort of fat. And then the next thing you're going to need something to spoon the dough onto the cookie sheet with. Now I'm going to be using this right here, and this is a 25 milliliter scoop, which is about 1/8 of a cup. Okay, and it's just perfect for a nice size oatmeal raisin cookie. So I'm going to get about a 2-inch to 2.5-inch diameter cookie off of this scoop right here. Use a large spoon if you don't have a scoop. That's good for this. As I mentioned, I want to give mine a good coat with this stuff. You don't just have to go crazy with it, okay? But a good solid coating. It has been 10 minutes of soaking on those oats. All right, now this really does make a difference in the texture and quality of the oat itself in this cookie. And let's face it, that is the star of the dish. It should have a special and delightful both flavor as well as texture. And this, improving that, has made the cookie better. Okay, just that simple. The rest of our ingredients, I'm going to go ahead and get my vanilla down in here. Oh yeah. Who doesn't love vanilla, huh? Now my sour cream right here. Now part of me putting this recipe together, I promised myself I would do a recipe that was so simple it could be done in a single bowl with just a spatula, and that's it. And I wanted to do something that was really attractive, something that was real easy to do. And when I say attractive, I'm talking about attractive from the point of view of you don't have to feel like you're working real hard to make this. So watch what I do. And if you'll notice, I'm folding. So I turn it over and I work it together with the spatula. Nothing too difficult here. Okay, it's almost combined. So when you get it to this point, you're seeing the dough combining well. Go ahead and put those raisins on in there right now. So I take my scoop, I'm going to pull my mixture to the side of the bowl, scooping off any extra, so it's kind of a level scoop. And then I'm just going to squeeze that out onto my sheet there. And this is going to yield for me anywhere from, roughly 24 to 30 cookies, depending on their size. There we have it. Those beautiful cookies are ready to get baked. We'll put those in the oven, center rack. Give those about 15 to 20 minutes. Watch them close. Where I'm at, it takes right about 18 minutes. Folks, if you want, get you a screenshot. This is the ingredients list. This is my handwriting. It's terrible, I know. Please put up with. This is my volume measurements, what I grew up using. This is what I'm changing everything into, which is our metric equivalents, mostly by weight, some by volume. All right, so this is what we have going on. Let me give you the measurements of everything that we have here. Starting with our raisins in the back there, I was using 150 grams of raisins. That equals 1 cup. On this flour right here, we used 130 grams of flour. Again, about 1 cup. And on the oats right there, I used a total of 98 grams of oats. And again, that's about 1 cup. A half of a cup of milk, and on that milk, that's 125 milliliters. The sour cream right here, that's the ingredient that's so important. 1/3 of a cup of this, also 80 milliliters. That's how that measures too. The sugar right there, on our sugar, I was using a half of a cup. 110 grams of sugar, folks. Just as simple as it can be. On that butter, that is, excuse me, 1/2 cup of butter. 113 grams is the weight on this. When we come to our salt and the baking powder, that's our leavening, that is 1 teaspoon of each on those, also known as 5 milliliters, okay? 5 milliliters of vanilla right there, 1 teaspoon. And then when it comes to the spices, let's start in the back right over here. That was 1/2 of a teaspoon or 2 milliliters of cinnamon. 1/2 teaspoon, 2 milliliters of nutmeg. And then this nice white spice right here, that light color one, that's ginger. That was 1/2 of a teaspoon of ginger, 2 milliliters. And then on the allspice and cloves, that's the dark brown one on both sides there, those are 1/2 of a teaspoon, excuse me, 1/4 of a teaspoon each. I'm sorry, 1/4 of a teaspoon of cloves, 1/4 of a teaspoon of allspice. Also, that's 1 milliliter on each. Okay, that right there is the recipe. Let's take a look at the finished cookies and see what kind of a joyous thing that we have produced. Look how easy these come off of that baking sheet. But I'll say this, when I tried cooking these without anything, they stuck. I mean, they stuck big time. Oops, I broke one of them. Oh no. Oh well, it'll live and it'll be just as tasty. Okay? These are still very hot, very soft. And as I mentioned, you're going to get that brown edge, but the bottom, perfectly golden. Look at that, isn't that nice? Those are also very soft. So it makes a nice soft, chewy cookie. And the flavor, oh yeah. Right there. Beautiful golden brown on bottom. Like I said, they get a little brown on those edges. That's okay. Don't worry about that. It's flavor. And then there's the cookie. The spice. Oh, it's just perfect. And the flavors were pulled out with the acid and that sour cream. You betcha. Yep, you betcha. That is just the way a good cookie should be. A little crispy on the edge. Which, by the way, once you package it in an enclosed container overnight, it'll lose that crispy edge. Okay, they just stay soft after that. This cookie has a great texture because of the way the oats were done. It has the right amount of raisins in it. You don't have to go searching for a raisin. The spice in it is a perfect balance on those spices. That's my timer telling me that the last group are coming out. So you'll know this batch made a total of 27 cookies. That's the last 3 in the oven. Like I said, texture, spot on. Flavors, oh, perfect. The appearance, they're beautiful. These are good holiday cookie. Good cookie for special occasions. You can whip it up quick. As you've seen, there's no real work to this one. Combine the ingredients and put them in the oven. That's all you got to do. This is an easy bake. It's 350 degrees. It took me less than 20 minutes. And there they are. Folks, please give this a try. It's worth your time. Please take a look right underneath here in the description box, and you're going to see some links there. Links to Texas Cooking Today. That's where you're going to find the rest of my recipes. Also, you're going to find the written recipes on my website. That link is down there also. That's S.A.Trotter.com. And that's where I sell the print version of my recipes. And you're going to find those. They're going to be really good quality. You'll be surprised. And folks, thank you for watching. Please, if you haven't subscribed, do so. And have a good day. Bye-bye. Oh, yeah. That is a good cookie.